keeps us back from godly success. He says that there is the roadblock of gripping fear. There is the roadblock of nagging doubt. There is the roadblock of excuses. There is the roadblock of procrastination. There is the roadblock of insatiable greed. There is the roadblock of sin. And then there is the roadblock of slothfulness. I've discovered, Pastor Richardson, that inside of the church house that one of, if not all of these roadblocks finds themselves inside of God's house. There is the roadblock of gripping fear, and it is a fear that takes and it grips us and then it paralyzes us, makes us feel that we are threatened, that we are incapable, or that we are inadequate. And thus fear, it'll keep us bottled up and stagnant. Then there is the roadblock of nagging doubt. It is closely related to the roadblock of gripping fear. And the roadblock of nagging doubt, it takes and it's birthed out of a lack of confidence. It takes and it lingers around and it causes us to become unsteady, causes us to become tentative, causes us to become wavering in our pursuit of a goal. Then there is that roadblock of excuses, which is an infection of self-justification that takes root in a person and it rots away at a person's desire to pursue their goals. It is the habit of offering an excuse on every turn for not doing what one knows that they should do. Then there is the roadblock of procrastination, and this roadblock simply takes and it puts off for tomorrow what you know that you should and could do today. That roadblock of insatiable greed, where people are infected with greed, craving and acquiring for more than a person can handle and than a person needs. A person that suffers from the roadblock of insatiable greed, they're never ever satisfied. They have a bottomless pit to themselves. They need, if it's not one woman, they need more women. If it's not one man, they need more men. If it's not the money that they have, they need more money. Always craving for more, and they are never ever satisfied. And then there is the roadblock of sin, which desensitizes us to what is right and wrong, and then all things become acceptable in life. Then finally, that roadblock of slothfulness. This is nothing more than a lazy spirit that causes the individual to do as least as possible, as little as possible, and they try to get by living life with minimal effort, minimal expenditure of creative energy, and minimal involvement with others. These are roadblocks to success. And I wonder in here on today, is there anyone that wants to be successful, but you need to overcome the roadblocks to success? Is there anybody in here that desires to be met with success in their lives, but there's something that keeps getting in your way? There's something that keeps holding you back from being all that you know you could be and all that you know that you should be. Is there anybody in here that is desirous of being successful, but you keep coming up against roadblocks? Maybe it's not you, but maybe it's somebody else that gets in your life and gets in your way that's preventing you from becoming as successful and as prominent and as fulfilling as you possibly could be, simply because there are roadblocks in your way. You want to overcome the roadblock to gripping fear, nagging doubt, excuses, procrastination, insatiable greed, and sin and slothfulness. And if you want to overcome the roadblocks to success, brothers and sisters, I'm here to let you know this morning that you're going to have to put your trust in God. If you're going to overcome the roadblocks to success, you're going to have to place place your trust in God. It is in our text on today that the Hebrew writer gives us some important insight that can help us to overcome the roadblocks that we encounter on our path towards success. And if you've never ever in your life ever had any roadblocks in your life, I'm here to let you know that if you keep on saying good morning and good evening, that you're going to have some roadblocks along the way. And I've discovered in life that you can't look down on anybody, or you can't talk about anybody when they have not materialized or manifested all that they could be. Just because they have not gotten there doesn't mean that they're not trying to get there, but a roadblock has gotten in their way. You can't laugh at them, you can't talk about them, you can't snicker at them, because one of these old days you're going to find that there's going to be something that is gotten in your way that's keeping you from being all that you could be in God. Do I have anybody in this house in here without telling all of your business, without putting it all out there, that can testify, Reverend, I've been putting forth some maximum effort. I've been doing all that I can do. I've been paying my tithe. I've been giving my offering. I've been praying. I've been showing up to Bible study. I've been praying and coming to prayer meetings. I've been showing up on Sunday morning. I've been studying my Bible, but it seems like every time I put one step forward, it seems like I go about 2 or 3 steps back. Every time it seems like I begin to put aside some things and put some things behind me, it seems like they keep showing up in my life again. Every time it seems as though I am getting ahead, I look around, but it seems like I'm in the same place, seeing the same faces and going through the same thing. Maybe not any of you all in greater love, but there are times in my life where I'm working hard, I'm pressing hard, I'm praying hard, I'm preaching hard, I'm living my life to the best of my ability, but it seems like I'm still stuck in the same place that I was in last year, I was in a year before, I was in 2 days ago, a month ago, 10 years ago, and look around and it seems like I'm in the same place that I started in years ago. Our Hebrew writer, he helps us out in here on today. He helps us out, brothers and sisters, to see how we can overcome the roadblocks to success. He helps us, brothers and sisters, when we look in Hebrews chapter number 12, verses 1 and 2. He simply takes and he helps us to see how it is as a child of God that we can overcome the roadblocks to success. He helps us, first of all, brothers and sisters, to see that if you're going to overcome the roadblock to success, he helps us to see that, first of all, we must perceive that success is possible. He helps us to see that you can overcome the roadblocks to success when you perceive that success is possible. Somebody shout out, it is possible. Yes, it is possible. The Bible helps us to see in Matthew chapter number 19 and verse number 26 that with God that all things are possible. And in order to overcome the roadblocks to success, each of us, brothers and sisters, we must perceive it in our mind, we must perceive it in our heart that success is possible. Somebody shout out, it is possible. You got to see it in your mind, see it in your heart. You have to see it in your soul that success is possible. Not only is it possible, but you must believe that it is accomplishable, and it is accomplishable by me. Somebody shout out, I can do this thing. Y'all gonna help me preach this morning. I can do this thing. Somebody shout out, I can do this thing. Yes, you got to be able to see that success is a reality. We see here that we are able to perceive that success is a possibility when we know that there are others who have made it. It is right here in the text, brothers and sisters, Hebrews chapter number 12, and you got some homework tonight. When you go home, read chapter number 11. It helps us to see, because it says that we, in verse number 1, are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. The 12th chapter, it begins with an argument that is based on the past performances as well as past performers. It helps us to see this in chapter number 11, the past performances of God, but then it also helps us in chapter 11 to see the past performers that believed in God. And when you look at chapter 11, many scholars call it the Hall of Faith. And it tells us here in chapter 12, verse number 1, that we have a cloud of witnesses. But watch this here. These here are not witnesses that are standing on the sideline or in heaven looking over the banisters of heaven at us. But these are witnesses that can testify about the past performances of providence from God in their lives. They can testify. They're not witnesses on the sideline watching us, but they are witnesses that will tell you that I have a testimony that you can make it with God in your life. And many of us, we suffer because of silent saints that keep their mouths closed, that won't open up their mouths and tell another believer that where I am, I would not be there. I wish y'all would help me today. I would not be there if it were not for God in my life. What I have, I would not have if God did not give it to me. Where I am at, I wouldn't be there if God did not carry me there. The reason why I'm here today is because of God in my life. And I wonder in this house today, if you would just take the brakes up off of me. Aren't there any believers in here today that can testify that where I am at, it was because of God? That what I have is because God gave it to me. The reason why I'm here right now, baby, is because my God kept me. And I wonder if I've got anybody that don't mind opening up their mouths. You're not ashamed to tell somebody that if it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, then I would not be here right now. It says we got some witnesses. But not only does he help us to see that we can perceive that it's possible when we know that others have made it. I need to tell you that if God can help your neighbor, then God can help you. If God can bring them out, then God can bring you out. If God can bless them, then he also can bless you. Anybody believe that in your room today? Know that there are others who have made it, but then also we can perceive that it's possible when we know how they made it. Somebody shout, how they made it. I like this because when you look at chapter number 12, chapter 12, it begins with the English word therefore, which is this Greek word, toigaroon in the Greek. And this word in the Greek and in the English, it is a particle that introduces, watch this, a conclusion based on the aforementioned. It introduced an argument. That which is on the backside of the therefore is a conclusion that is based on what happened before the therefore. And so you know how they made it when you go backwards and look at what happened before the therefore. So what the writer is saying after the therefore is a conclusion, or one can conclude that what is possible, or what I am saying, you can conclude that it is possible possible based on what we see happening before the therefore. Did I lose y'all in here on this morning? You can conclude that what the writer is saying, everything after the therefore, you can come to the conclusion that it is true, that it can happen based upon what he is saying before the therefore. And when one looks at what happened before the therefore in chapter number 11, he begins to talk about the saints of God and the success in these saints' lives. And he begins to tell you about how these saints were met with success. And it says in each instance of every saint and their success that they were able to make it because they had faith. Somebody shout out, they had faith. If you don't get anything from this point, I want to tell you that the way that you can make it is by faith. Watch this. When one looks at that 11th chapter, it begins and lets you know in verse number 4, it says, by faith Abel. In verse 5, it says, by faith Enoch. In verse 7, it says, by faith Noah. In verse 8, it says, by faith Abraham. In verse 11, it says, by faith Sarah. In verse 20, it says, by faith Isaac. In verse 21, it says, by faith Jacob. In verse 22, it says, by faith Joseph. In verse 23, 24, 27, 28, and 29, it says, by faith Moses. In other words, what 11th chapter is trying to tell you is before we even get into the 12th chapter is that you're going to need some faith. And if you got faith, you can put your name after faith. And if you put your name after faith, you'll be able to say, can I just put my name in here? By faith, Johnny was able to make it. By faith, I'm still here. By faith, I made it through the valley. By faith, I made it over the mountain. By faith, I made it through my trouble. By faith, I made it through my lonely nights. By faith, I made it through my teary eyes. By faith, I made it through the lies. By faith, I made it through the heartache. By faith, I made it through the broken heart. By faith, I made it from what's walking out of my life. By faith, I made it by knives stuck in my back. In other words, I would not be here not only because of God, but I wouldn't be here if I did not have faith in the Lord. And I wonder in this church on today, is there anybody in here that got faith that God can and that faith that you can? Somebody shout out by faith. Yeah, you can overcome by faith. By faith. They made it by faith. So number one, you gotta perceive that it's possible. But then number two, you have to pursue it with passion. The Bible says, or rather in life, we've all heard the statement that anything that is worth having is worth fighting. Y'all ever heard that before? And the Bible helps us to see here, brothers and sisters, that we must take and determine that if our goal, whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish in life, is it worth anything at all? And then if it's worth anything at all, then brothers and sisters, and you want to obtain your goal, then you must pursue it with passion. Somebody shout, pursue it with passion. You have to pursue it with passion. And I want to tell you here that yes, that adage is true, that anything worth having, you must fight for it. Somebody shout out, you're going to have to fight for this thing. Oh, y'all not saying it like y'all going to fight. Y'all sound like y'all lost already. Somebody shout out, you're going to have to fight for it. You got to fight for this thing. If it's worth having at all, you're going to have to fight for it. And I hope you don't say it like that and live your life like that. Oh, you got to fight for it. Then you ain't going to get it. But if you want it, you ought to shout it out. Somebody say you got to fight for it. Yes, you got to fight for it and you got to pursue it with passion. How, Reverend, can I pursue this thing with passion? It's right up here again, chapter number 12 in this Bible again. Hope that your Bibles are still open. Hope that you still have some juice on your devices here today. You will see there in this 12th chapter that if you're going to pursue it with passion, look at what it says there in verse number 1. It says, let us lay aside every weight, he says, and the sin which so easily ensnares us. And then he says, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. If you're going to pursue it with passion, the very first thing that you must do is that you must remove hindrances. It's right there in the text. You got to remove hindrances. He says, let us lay aside, he said, every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. He gives us instructions on how we can overcome the roadblocks to success. He helps us, brothers and sisters, that we'll get to that point and you get to that place. In order to get there, you have to take and lay aside, right there in the text, every weight and sin that ensnares us. The imagery here is that of a runner that is trying to run a race. In order to run a race, they must remove the hindrances that would get in the way of them running a race. A few weeks ago, we were all marveled and glued before our televisions watching the races and watching the Olympics. And as we watched the Olympics, some of us were enamored with Usain Bolt. Some of us were enamored with him and how fast he can sprint and how he was met with success in winning the races that he was in. While you were looking at him running the race, I was more interested in what he did prior to the race. I was interested in his preparing and his getting ready for races. And when he would get ready for race, he would run sometimes with heavy garments, but then he would also run with light garments. And as he entered into the arena there in the Olympics, and as he got ready to get in his blocks, I noticed that before getting on the track to run, that the uniform, that the suit, that the jogging suit that he had on, he took it all off. He took off his jacket, took off his pants, and he was there in some tight-fitting clothes and some shoes that if you wore them all day long, it would hurt your feet. But the equipment that he had on, everything was light and it was not intrusive. It was not obstructing him so that he could run freely the race. The problem is, brothers and sisters, and we missed the lesson there, is that many of us, as the text says, will carry around too many things trying to run the race. You can't run the race with all of the burdens that you are carrying and still expect to be met with success. Let me see if I can make it plain. Put this in your life. Many of us, brothers and sisters, we are carrying around the burdens from our past. We have some past mistakes that we did in our yesteryear, and although our lips say that we have let it go, we are still holding on to the burdens from our past. The man in your today is not the man from your yesterday. The woman in your today is not the woman from your yesterday. The job in your today is not the job from your yesterday. You got to learn how to let some of the stuff go from your yesterday so that you can take and win in your today. But if you got 4 and 5 brothers from your past, making a brother in your present pay for the 4 or 5 brothers in your past, no wonder he can't make it because he's trying to make up for all of the rest of those Negroes. No wonder she can't make it because she's trying to be better than all of the other sisters. No wonder you can't have success on the job today because you're still thinking about the job from your yesterday. Somebody shout out, you must let it go. Not only the burdens from your past, but watch this. Some of us are carrying around the burdens of people. Can I tell you that sometimes people can be a hindrance? If folks in your life are not helping you, then they are hindering you. If folks in your life are not giving to you, then watch this, they are taken away from you. And guess what? Everybody in your life, they're not destined, designed to take and to go with you where God is trying to take you. I wish I was hearing me today. But you trying to carry them. You trying to bring Mama, Ray, Pookie, and all of them. You trying to carry them where God is trying to take you. I know you love them. I know you care about them. I know they've been in your life for a mighty long time. But I'm here to tell you that you're not going to be able to get to where God is trying to get you because you're trying to carry everybody. Sometimes you just got to loosen the anchor and let the anchor go so that you can go to higher heights. Sometimes you got to let go of some friends. Sometimes you got to let go of some neighbors. Sometimes you either got to let go of your children. Sometimes you got to let go of your relatives because everybody can't handle where God is trying to take you. Everybody can't go where God is trying to take you. So sometimes you just got to let them go. Somebody shout out, let it go. You got to let people go. You got to let the past go. I don't have a whole lot of time, but I'll give you one more burden that you got to let go. You got to let some practices go. You got to let some practices go. He says, let us lay aside, he says, every weight, watch this, and then he says, and sin. That so easily, he says, ensnares us. He says, ensnares us. That ensnares, brothers and sisters, what it means is that it captures us and it holds us. It keeps us there. You got to let go of some past. You got to let go of some people, but you got to let go of some practices. Some practices, watch this, this is a hard part because we always, human nature, we're good for looking out the window and into somebody else's window. We're good for telling our neighbor what they need to do, but never ever do we want to look in the mirror and tell ourselves what we need to do. We'll shout over letting go of some past. We'll shout about letting go of some people, but we won't shout about letting go of some practices. And can I tell you the truth? The reason we won't shout about letting go of some practices, because if you tell the truth and shame the devil, there are some practices that feel good to us. I wish y'all were in here today. Y'all too holy for me. So y'all, I know you wasn't going to get it, but I'm going to tell you anyhow. There are some things, some practices that sure enough feel good to us. Y'all still ain't going to say amen. Let me see if I can say it this way and I'll move off of this one because I knew y'all wasn't going to shout, but I had to tell you this anyway. Listen here, there are some practices that we just need to let go. Y'all need to just, I was going to say y'all, but let me put myself in there that we need to let go. It ensnares us. You know, let me tell you how I know it felt good to you, because remember that first text you sent, that was an accident. But when you sent the next text, it felt good sending the text and what you said in the text. Talk back to me up in here. You know that first time you went, you didn't mean to go. But then you went back again. You went back again because it sure enough felt good to you. Y'all not going to talk to me? You remember the first time you accepted the phone call, it was an accident. But then when you accepted again and again and again and again, that wasn't no accident. Sometimes we pray to God and say, God, forgive me because I made a mistake. But in order to set yourself free, you got to know the difference between making a mistake and just going back because it sure enough felt good to you. And when you go back because it felt good to you, you're going back and it becomes a practice. That lie you told the first time, that was an accident. But when you kept on lying again and again and again, you lied because it sure enough felt good to you. It really worked in your favor. And so what we need to learn is the difference between making a mistake and having a habit. And when you make a mistake, that's one thing. But when you got a habit, you need to call on the name of the Lord and say, Lord, I need you to break these shackles that are holding me, because I keep on sending texts when I should not send texts. I keep on answering calls when I should not answer calls. I keep on going where I should not go. I wish y'all could talk back to me in here. I keep lying when I should not lie. There's just some things, brothers and sisters, that we just need to let go. Somebody shout out, let it go. But then here, brothers and sisters, he then tells us that you have to remain patient. You have to remain patient. He says, run, he says, with endurance. I'm almost done here. He says, let us run with endurance. Let us run with endurance. That Greek word, hupomone in the Greek, and that word, it has two translations, or a couple of translations, but two that many of the translators choose to utilize in this text. Some translators, they try and they translate the word, they utilize this word endurance, while others utilize the word patience. And that word in the Greek, it means to abide under. It speaks of what you do while you're trying to run the race or while you're trying to overcome the roadblocks to success. He says here that you must hupamune, you must endure, you must run it with endurance, and you must run it with patience. Which means, saints of God, that watch this, along the way, you're going to experience some hardship along the way. But what he's saying here is that you must hupamune, you must endure, you must abide under the hardship. You must abide under the hardship and not be so quick and in a hurry that when the road gets tough and when you are met with resistance, that you're so quick to wave the white flag or throw in the towel. He says that it be rough right now, but if you're going to be successful, remember, anything worth having, it's worth fighting for. And so the resistance that you are having is nothing more than Satan, self, and society that's trying to keep you from being successful. But what you must do is that you must abide under it, and you must keep on pressing on no matter how hard it gets. But then watch this, he also is saying, hupamune, not only must you endure, but you must run it with patience. Meaning that when you look to your left and you look to your right, and it seems like other people are going faster than you, that you must not give up because you're trying to get there quick and in a hurry. It may not be designed for you to get there and be an overnight success. It may not be designed for you to get there and get it on next year. It may not even be in God's will for you to get it 5 years from now. It may not be in his will for you to be successful in your 40s, in your 30s, or your 20s, or maybe in your 50s. It might be when you're 60-year-old that now you're reaping all of the fruit of all of your labor. And some of you are saying, well, I want to get it when I'm young so that I have the energy, that I have the strength, that I can enjoy it. Well, the last time I checked, it doesn't matter when God takes and gives you the blessing or the breakthrough. If it's sweet in your 20s, it's sweet in your 30s, it's sweet in your 40s, it's sweet in your 50s, it is sweet in your 60s as well. Because whenever God blesses you, it does not matter when he bless you or how he bless you. It is all that matter. As long as the Lord bless me, then it's all right by me. And so here the writer, he says here that you must take and you must run your race with endurance. You must run your race with patience. In other words, he says that you should not give up on running your race. But in you not giving up on running your race, he is saying to us that there ought to be some people in your life that can open up their mouths and begin to tell you about how the Lord has blessed them. That there ought to be some people in your life that should be able to tell you that if it were not for the Lord who was on my side, then I would not be here right now. But he also helps us to see that after he ends verse number 1, that even if you don't have nobody in your life that'll open up their mouths and testify about what the Lord has done, he says that when you have hardships in your life, when you have difficulties in your life, and you can't look to your neighbor, you can't even look to your friends, and even if you can't find nobody inside of the Lord's house, I like what the Hebrew writer says, when you can't look nowhere else, he tells you that you need to look at Jesus. You need to look at how the Lord was able to make it, even when folks lied on him, and even when they talk about him, he says, even if you can't look at nobody else, he says, look at how Jesus, how he was